Here we are, out in the garden. Out in the garden. And look what's starting to happen. Flowers are blooming. These are pretty cosmos. Pretty cosmos. And they're kind of blooming all over the place. So hopefully, the ones that are in the most sun are blooming already. I noticed that. See, these don't get sun until later on in the afternoon, so I might try to move them so they can burst out in flower. And these are way tucked over here. So, one pitiful little flower right there. But they don't get any sun until, these are flowers too, zinnias. I pulled up the lettuce that was in these because, like I said, when something is ready for harvest and you do not pick it, you are just asking for something to happen to it. There's that's a lesson in that about us spiritually, because looking at some lettuce over here that's bolting, but there's a lesson in that spiritually, and that lesson is that God is not going to come a moment too late. He's going to come for the benefit of those that are his. Which means that when the fruit is ripe and when the time is right, God's not going to delay. He's not going to delay. And if you're not ready, then you're going to hell. If I'm not ready, I will go to hell. God forbid. Because you can't leave fruit sitting on a vine. You can't leave ripe fruit hanging on a tree, because it's going to fall to the ground and rot. I think that lettuce is bolting. And I believe that's bolting too. So, anyway, that's the rest of the lettuce. That lettuce looks pretty good. I probably could still eat this. They say, oh, the lettuce gets bitter when it's getting ready to go to seed. But I don't really find that. Look at the blueberries. I had covered them up at one point. It seemed like it was bugs getting trapped under there and stuff, so I let them go. All right, let's organize this tour. This is a view of almost everything. There's a little bit around that corner of the house right there that you can't see. But for the most part, this is everything. Someday, hopefully today, I'll start making it pretty and moving these things around in an aesthetically pleasing way. And then this is the corner that I'm standing in. This is some stuff that I really didn't have room to plant anywhere. This right here is a ground cherry. Well, I think so is this. See, that's starting to get a flower on it. I need to get that in the ground so it can get nice and big. I believe this is some oregano, and I know that's a sunflower. These are some ground cherries too. Hope the wind is not a problem today. Sounds like it could be. All right, so let's start here. The pretty strawberries, big, huge. Got berries on there. They taste really good. They could be sweeter, but they taste pretty good. All right. Now, this is one thing you can do if you ever grow strawberries is you see that thing that's shooting out from there right there? That's called a runner. And what a runner does is it's the way, besides seed, of a strawberry plant making more strawberry plants. So the big plant, which there's like 4 plants in here. So the big plant will be called the mother. And then these will be called the daughter plants. And all you gotta do is catch a runner, put some if this was in the ground, if this was planted in the ground instead of a pot, this would naturally do this. Those runners would just find a piece of ground, take root, and become a new plant. But by this being on concrete, they just shoot out and they don't find anything to implant into, and then they just die. But if you catch them, that's a separate one. But if you catch them, give them a little pot to grow in, and that's like the little something I use to like tack it down. It's just a little U shape of a piece of metal, and I just tack it down like a staple. And that probably already has roots, and I just did that a couple days ago. And then here's another one over here that I was catching, and it looks like it's doing well. It was looking like this when I first did it, so it looks like it's doing well. That one too, look how fast they go. That's how fast they go. And then you can go and pay, you know, $4, $5 for that in a store. And that's literally all they do. And then they sell them as plants. It's crazy. So anyway, that's a strawberry plant. And that's just how easy they are to grow. I bought these plants last year. I bought a bunch of plants last year. I bought maybe about 12 of them. I think I bought 6 of each kind. And there's 2 kinds of strawberries. There's June bearing, June like the month, and bearing like bearing fruit. And then there's ever bearing, where all season long, they produce a little trickle of fruit all season long. That's what the ever-bearing do. So from summer till frost, they'll produce a little bit of berries all the time. And those are the ones that are in that other container, right there with those red flowers in it. But this is the June bearing. So sometime in June and in August, they produce basically all their fruit. And then after that, they don't do much. So, but they'll continue to send out runners, and you can make more plants with the runners. And then you can enjoy the fruit while it's giving fruit. Now, this is kind of a small one right here, but I'm going to taste it. Let me get this out of the way. I'm going to taste it. That one was just okay. That one was quite tart, actually. Anyway, this plant really should be somewhere where it's getting more sunlight. But as you can see, it's kind of big, and I have limited space where I'm allowed to put things. And also we have deer around here, and deer eat strawberries. I'm not talking about they eat the fruit. They will eat your plant. So if I put this too far out there near that tree line, the deer will just come out and eat it. They're scared to come over here because they don't like to go in places where they look like they can get trapped or enclosed. Anyway, so that's the lettuce. These are potatoes. This is a potato plant. What you do is you put potatoes in dirt, and those little things that grow like eyes, that we call eyes on the potato, they grow up into these stalks, which turns into a plant. And under the ground, the root system of the potato plant will form more potatoes. And that's the way it works. Or, alternatively, just like with the strawberries, there's seeds on the outside of that fruit. You can plant those seeds and get strawberries. Potatoes are something like that. Right here, these are potato flowers, or they will be. These are the buds of flowers. And those flowers will get pollinated, and they will turn into a little fruit that looks something like a cherry tomato, except it doesn't change color. It stays green. You let that mature, and when it gets ready to fall off, there's seeds inside of it. You can save those and plant them, and you can have more potatoes. However, when you just put a whole potato in the ground, the roots, it'll spring up a plant, and then the roots will go down and form more potatoes. Those potatoes will be just like the potato it came from. But if you plant seeds, it will be a new individual plant that will produce an entirely unique type of potato. It'll still be a potato. It'll still have characteristics in common of a potato, but it may be a different color, maybe a different shape, have a different size, taste, all of that. It'll be just like if you have two people and they get together and have a baby. That baby is not going to look exactly like either one of them. It's going to be a unique individual. So that's the way that works. So as you guys know, last year, the two things that I bought in the way of plants were blueberry bushes and the strawberries. I bought them last year, and I just left them in the pots that I bought them in. The pots look like that one, that black one. And the winter came, it snowed, it got freezing cold, and they all lived through the winter. But this is the only one that made any significant amount of fruit. And part of what happened was we got cold weather again after things warmed up. So these all started to bud, and then the cold weather came and got them. There was a dead branch right there that I cut off. And this one, I don't know. It was looking so ugly that I just decided to cut it all the way back to the nub and see what it does. It's just an experiment. These are the ground cherries that I keep talking about. They're a cross between a tomatillo and a tomato, and they taste like a fruit. They taste like a sweet and tangy fruit. And here's another one. This one's a little bigger. I guess because, it's getting sun earlier than that one because of the way the shadow of the sun falls. These are the Lysianthus. The famous Lysianthus that's been growing since January. We're going to see if they were worth it. Been nursing them since January. Here's another set of them. So we're going to see. All right. These are zinnias. A pretty flower. These are varieties, the zinnias and the cosmos. Most of them are ones. I grew cosmos and zinnias last year, but these are different varieties. I bought different seed packs than the seeds that you can normally get in the store for those. These are the pea plants. These are supposed to be bush peas. But as you can see, they're big enough that you still need a trellis for these. You still need to give them something to climb up. Otherwise, they'd be on the ground and bugs would get all over it and destroy your crop and make it inedible. So here's one right here. This one's fully ready. I'm gonna see if I can snap it off. Came off pretty easy. These are they're not bush variety. Now something's going on. Why is it giving these kind that are just flat and weird looking when they're supposed to be all full and plump like that? Weird. I don't know if it was heat or if it's some kind of nutrient deficiency. We did get a lot of rain. We had so much water. The soil's just now starting to dry out. I probably need to water those. So it could have been all the water. I don't really know. So you see, they were little and they grew. You got to give them something to grow up, a trellis. And then they get this flower on them. And then the flower does this, starts growing that little thing. Then the little flower part, the flower does this, and then the flower part falls off. And then it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And then you get a big fruit that you can eat. Now inside these are peas like you would think of. And they're pretty sweet. This is a piece that broke off, yes, a couple days ago, and I just stuck it in the ground to see what would happen. I think it's dying. It didn't even have any roots. I just stuck it in the ground. I just stuck it in that thing because I could. Here's one I just threw on the ground, and they don't look too much different, so it's pretty hardy. That could just be dying slowly. Here's the cosmos that I showed you in the beginning. These are ones that are getting a decent amount of sun, so they're blooming quickly. This is a zinnia. That is but ugly. Hopefully it's not done with its show, because that is ugly. Growing these different varieties, hopefully they'll be pretty and worth it. I didn't keep any tags, so I don't know which one is which. That is a ground cherry. Sunflowers. These are dwarf sunflowers. Now sunflowers can get like 8, 10, 12 feet tall. But these are a little small variety, and they're starting to get the flower head on them. I don't know what that is. That might be chamomile and something else. I forgot what I put in there. Look at those onions. Doing pretty good. Those came from seeds. Started them in the house. They're starting to get a little bulb on them. That little plant right there is off of a sweet potato. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is the equivalent of the potato getting eyes on it. So I took one of these things right here, just broke it off of there and stuck it in the ground. Just stuck the tip of it in the ground as though I was, planting a stick. And it stayed in there for a while, and then it started to grow leaves. And that's what this is. Now what happens up under is it will grow sweet potatoes. Now, as you can see, that's a problem right there because the onions are going to interfere with it and it's going to interfere with the onions. This is just a weed. I'm going to pull that up. It's really easy to weed when you when you grow in containers. Okay. These are the ever-bearing strawberries. Those red ones I bought this year. These, man, get away from me. It's a bug following me around. These other ones with the white flowers, this, and the other one right there with the white flower, those are my ever-bearings from last year that lived through the winter. These red ones I bought, I don't really care for them. I don't care for the fruit. It's little, it's small, it's terrible. It's not worth it. They look kind of pretty growing in a pot, but I want good fruit. I don't want really, if I want flowers, I'll just plant flowers, but when I want strawberries, I'll plant strawberries. This is some more cosmos that haven't bloomed yet. These are different herbs. See how much bigger they are than last time. Man, there's bugs out here today. Chives, parsley. Oh boy. I had to get away from there because there's too many bugs right there. Too many bugs. Not in the mood. Oh my gosh. I have to run. Okay. I think I'm good. All right. This is the bed that got attacked by deer. So the plants, they're more bushy than they are tall because they got bit. This one, and this one, they got chomped down to the ground by the deer. You can still see where they chopped the top of the plant off. So what happens when you chop the top of a plant, it bushes out to the sides. All right. I believe this is a tomatillo. I believe this is a tomatillo because if this was a regular tomato, get off of there. If this was a regular tomato, I think it just doesn't look like the flowers when the flowers of the regular tomato grow. So what I got to do is keep tying this up. Because when these things get fruit on them, the fruit is real heavy and it can actually snap these things. It could actually like snap those quote unquote branches off. I think this is a beefsteak tomato. And I'm also tying that up to a pole. These are more potatoes. Regular, either white and red potatoes, little small potatoes. You see that plant is huge. And it's also starting to get flowers. And same thing, it'll produce a fruit that will have a seed inside of it that will produce a unique potato. But these are essentially clones. Some more of those ever-bearing strawberries. You see how it produces those weird, ugly-looking fruit. I don't even want to eat those. Those are tiny, dried up, and just, ugh. And all it's good for is pretty flowers. That's all it's good for. Oh, there's other stuff in there. There's some azania right there. And then, I don't know what type of plant this is. Some type of a vining plant. It's, maybe it's a pumpkin. Maybe it's a... This is some sort of a vining plant too. It's not getting a lot of sun, so it's not doing well. This one. So we'll see what that is. Those flowers will make the fruit, and when the fruit comes, we'll see what it is. All right. So these are all different type of tomatoes. We'll see what kind they are because I didn't keep track of my tags very well. This is also, wow. It rained a lot, so the weeds are growing up. Anyway, so this is another 5 tomatoes. The only kind I'm really sure what it is, I need to tie these up more. They've really gotten bigger in the last couple days. Brandywine, and I'm pretty sure this is a beefsteak. There's a branch there that needs to get tied up. I don't know what kind this is, or those other two, but there's 5 in there. Like the 5 on a dice. All right. The brassicas hanging on, looking yellow like they need some fertilizer. These are the greens. As you can see, I picked some greens. I picked some, and they're already growing back. We picked them and ate them. They were good. And then froze some. I'm pretty sure these 2 are collard greens. I know this one is. I should dig it up and move it over there into that empty spot because there was kale right there. Anyway, I think these are a couple of, look at that broccoli over there. Finally getting a broccoli head. Now this video might cut off because it's getting kind of hot out here. And you know how your phone turns off in the heat. These are the Brussels sprouts, still not doing anything yet. They need fertilizer for sure. More tomatoes. This is a whole bed of tomatoes. The only one I'm really sure what it is this one, Brandywine. Brandywine pink. And I'm pretty sure that's a beefsteak. I've had to come out here and tie them up to these poles. Otherwise they just flop over. Okay. So then here we get into some ground cherries, some basil, and beans. That's a bean. That's a ground cherry. And then these are all beans. Look at that butterfly. I thought he was gone. You better get away from me. Matter of fact, I'm going to kill you. See, those are the ones that lay the cabbage moth. This white butterfly right here is the thing that destroys your cabbage and your brassicas. It lays eggs on them. It lays eggs on them, and then they are just covered in hundreds and hundreds of caterpillars that will decimate your plant leaves and turn them into looking like something like lace. Okay, this bed over here, watermelons. Now, problem with having this tower here is birds like to perch on stuff, right? Which means they're going to be taking a massive dump on your plant leaves. So there's poop everywhere. So I don't know if it's too late for me to rethink this plan. This plan for a trellis. It's just like some copper piping that I made that out of. Copper has gotten way more expensive since I bought that. My plan was to have a bunch of them, but copper's so expensive now, I'm not doing that. So trying to keep these growing in the bed. This is too many plants in here, but it's just an experiment. When stuff doesn't work, that's what I call it. It's an experiment. Well, okay. So that's watermelons. Sugar babies mostly. And some 2 crimson sweet plants. This is not enough space. Like, especially with the crimson sweets, because they grow a big watermelon. You could put 1 plant, 2 at the most, in a space this big. But you see what I've done. We shall see. There's little watermelons on there too. This would be a sugar baby. Yep. It looks like it was fertilized. All right, so I don't know how the bees are getting in there finding those flowers, but there's flowers down in there. Okay. So back to this bed. Onions getting big on top, right? Like, I don't know why these over here are so small. I think I planted the little ones over here and planted big ones over there. Or is it just something about that spot over there? Something that I buried in the ground that's letting them get real big? Because, you know, I bury... Oh, look, something dug that up. You're wrong for that. Something went in there and dug that up. That's crazy. All right, well, the onions, these are... We'll get a little bulb on them, and at the bottom it'll start looking like an onion. Look. What in the world? What's wrong with these robins? They done lost their mind. Their eggs are everywhere. That's crazy right there. I think I'm gonna have to water this stuff. So these plants here are okra. And as you can see, these that I planted like a month and a half later have caught up to the ones that came out too early and got sunburnt. This one had got sunburnt, and the ones that I planted after that are now basically the same size and healthier than this one. This was one that got sunburnt, and it's like at least like 6 weeks older or more than this one that I planted to replace those ones that died. I planted 16, and all but like 2 of them are dead now. And all the rest of these are new and coming up. So we'll see what happens. I don't really care for okra. I grew this because my mother likes it. Now, these leaves don't look that good. I don't know what's going on with this plant. That one looks like something's wrong. And anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's, oh, this is where I moved. Remember the apple tree? I took the one that died out and replanted the one that lived and moved it over here into the sun. It looks, yep, the aphids are coming back. The aphids continuously want to attack this plant, and they are back. You can see right there. So I always have to look up under the leaves for the aphids. And they're back. So I'm going to spray them off. I'm going to spray the aphids off of this, and then I'm going to put more bug dust on there. So you can see how it's only got leaves on one side. That's because it was someplace where only half of it was getting sun. It wasn't getting good sun. So these are going to be zinnias. That's going to be zinnias. Cosmos. And there's a wasp looking to have a home in there. Anyway, these are more of those pretty worthless strawberries. There was a tomato that somehow was growing in there. Must have been a seed in the dirt that I put in there. And I took the tomato out, and my father wanted it, so I gave it to him. Oh, we forgot a bed. These are all cucumbers. Way too many cucumber plants, right? Yeah, these things just had a serious growth spurt. So what I'm gonna do, ooh, they kind of have like spiky things on them. Not too bad, but. So I'm gonna get it to grow through there. And they'll grow up this thing. It rained a lot. Now, I watered this thing all the time, but for whatever reason, the rainwater is better. And we know probably what the reason is. Plants probably don't like fluoride. Whenever it rains, they just go crazy. So, anyway, this is either some kind of tomato plant, some kind of tomatillo or something. It looks like it's going to be an indeterminate variety, meaning a determinate variety, not going to get that big like a bush. Ooh, it's a lot of bugs out here today. Lord help me. Okay. See that? Let's see if I can find it. Green pepper. Right there. And all these other mystery pepper plants that I planted, don't know what they are. We'll see. 9 mystery pepper plants. And 6 of them that I know what they are because I bought them. The 6 at the edge of the bed that already have fruit on them. Fruit or flowers. These are bells. Those bell, and they already have had bell peppers on them. Green bell peppers. Leave them on there, they turn red. Sweet banana. Hot banana. Hot banana. Little tiny hot banana probably ain't gonna do anything. It looks pitiful. That little teeny one. Right there. All right. Well, that's everything. Oh, I pulled up a kohlrabi from right there. And the other ones, they're pickable size. And I tasted them. Overrated. Maybe they taste good in the spring when you plant them at the really optimal time. So, catnip. I picked some and gave it to one of my nieces because she has a cat. But it's still plenty big. I think that's like sweet basil and some thyme is in there too. That's lemon balm. Smells real good. Not sure why that's so yellow. Must have been something about the soil. More lemon balm. And that's it. Look, that's some sage. It's a herb people cook with. Lemongrass. Right there. And different herbs and stuff. Some little watering wand. Rain wand, they call it. I like it. It dumps out a lot of water so you don't stand there forever. And it also has a gentle spray. I need to do some weed whacking right here. I don't like when that grass grows up along there. It looks sloppy. So that's the whole thing. I'm going to do a 360. There it is. All right. Oh, I want to say this before I get off of here. I had a couple dreams about Americans. It was men and women going to war. Like actually being sent. And I believe it was out of the country to go fight, to go to war, or to just being deployed. I'm assuming they were going to fight, get involved in some war. So in one of the dreams, there was they were putting up signs and their picture on their property, like keep out signs, saying that they were gone away in the military. And they had like gates and fences and stuff and keep out signs that this property belonged to a military person, keep out of it and whatever. So he didn't pray. Anybody join the military right now? You taking a chance. Being sent away for war. More than likely, an unjust war where you'll be fighting against innocent people who haven't done anything to the people that are coming after them. That pea wasn't that sweet that I've been carrying around. Some of them are sweeter than others. Anyway, that's the garden that I spent way too much money on. But I'm learning. I'm learning something. I'm not spending any more money. If I do, it'll be very minimal. Very minimal amounts. So we gotta remember to get back into prayer. I'm not even gonna say stay in prayer because I already know. This is the time of the great falling away. And what we need to be doing is getting back. The Lord saying, I got somewhat against you. Return to your first love. So I already know that's the message that we need to hear. That's what we need to do. Hopefully you say, well, I'm not doing that. I'm already staying where I'm supposed to be. That's great. Well, then I'm talking to other people who, like me, need to be doing better. Need to be doing better. And oh, this is something else. When you pray, and I'm not saying all the time, every single time you pray and talk to the Lord, you need to get on your knees, because you could be at work and you could just be talking to the Lord in your heart. But when you have the opportunity, pray on your knees, because your enemy, your biggest enemy, is not the devil. Your biggest enemy is your flesh. Because your flesh is the vehicle that the devil gets into in order to be your enemy. Remember, Jesus came and he condemned sin in the flesh. He called out where sin lives. It lives in our flesh. The devil was in the garden before Adam and Eve sinned. And he appealed to them through the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Pride, because they were going to be wise, be like gods. Lust of the eye, because the fruit looked good. And the lust of the flesh, because it looked good for something that they could eat, to consume it. So it was a tree that was good for food. So that's the flesh. That's how the Bible talks about people whose God is their belly. So the devil is not the big problem. Don't get me wrong. He's a huge problem. He is the adversary. Our adversary, the devil. But he only has success against you when you walk in the flesh. Because the Bible says if you walk in the spirit, you won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. So since your flesh is your enemy, put your enemy on its knees. When the police come upon somebody that they perceive as dangerous, this person could have a knife. They could end up getting into a wrestling match with this person, and this person can grab the police officer's gun, and then all of a sudden this man's not able to go home to his wife and family that night. So the first thing they do is you get on the ground. They either tell you to get on your knees or get on your face. And that's where an enemy belongs. And that's what our flesh is to us. Stop thinking so much of yourself. Don't put any confidence in yourself, in your flesh, because Paul already let us know that in our flesh there dwelleth no good thing, not one good thing. So you need to see your flesh altogether like an enemy. Every morning, start by putting your enemy on his knees. Tell him put his hands in the air. One at a time, put him behind your back, and you handcuff him for the day. But guess what? When you get up tomorrow, you're going to have to put him right back on his knees. Because Paul said, I die daily. That means when you go to sleep, your flesh is going to rejuvenate itself, and he's going to come back strong the next morning and try you. So every day. And every day, it'll get easier and easier to subdue until you think, oh, I got this. I don't have to pray today. I'll pray tonight. And then the night never comes. You praying in your head, which you ain't even focused. So make it a habit. Put your flesh in subjection every single day because it is an enemy. And sin is tied up in it. And there's no way you can walk in your flesh, you can walk with your flesh alive and not be in sin. That's just the way that works. So anyway, here's the garden. This is by no means enough food to feed anyone. If this was my land and in a place conducive to do so, I would need to plant all of that whole area. It would all need to be planted. And then there's certain places on your land that won't be fitting for planting because that part down there, there's a creek beyond those weeds, and where those trees are, there's a creek that runs through there. And when you get a lot of rain every couple years, every few years, that water can come all the way halfway up that grass. And if you had a garden there, it would, ruin it. So you got to buy a piece of property, get to know your property. Where's the low spots? Where's the spots that get the good sun? There's a lot to it and a lot to learn. And some stuff you can only learn by, trial and error, basically. So anyway, I'm going to go pull out the weed whacker and weed around those beds, cut that grass down, make it level, give it a little haircut. And then I'm going to water things and maybe sweep up a little bit, try to arrange these things in some sort of a pretty way. I don't know how that white butterfly is making a comeback. I hadn't seen those things in a few weeks. I started to uncover my brassicas. I'm glad I didn't. I thought those butterflies were gone. They really don't mess with anything in your garden except for the brassicas. The other plants have their own pest. Anyway, God bless everybody. Oh, if anybody is watching this that's unfamiliar or new to watching my channel, then some of the old videos that I'm putting up that I posted between late 2018 and early 2021, you might hear me refer to there being 3 more years, 2 more years, 1 more year, depending on what year it was. And I debated about whether, because of that, I should not have those videos up or if I should take them down or what. But I'm going to leave them up because they also contain good information, true things, scriptures, but bad timing and an error, an erroneous, really inexcusable error. And that is, you don't go against any scripture. And I'm going to leave them up as just a testimony. And it's humbling every time I hear me saying something that's stupid. No one knows the day or the hour when the Lord is coming. And out of everything that the Lord showed me in any shape or fashion, for the most part, it all took a lot longer than the way it felt in the dream for it to come to pass. It all took a whole lot longer than what I was feeling like in the dream. So, like Paul and them, the disciples, they were expecting Jesus, and Jesus told them to expect him. He said, watch and pray. Jesus wants us in that watching and expecting mode. He doesn't want, the Father doesn't want the world to know when he's sending his son back for his bride, because he wants a faithful bride. That's not just, she's the reason why there's no men in the house is not because she's expecting her husband home in a few days. It's because she's just faithful at all times. So he doesn't want those ones that are just going to act ready because they know the time is at hand. He wants those to act right because they love him and they know the time is at hand. Because he wants us to be ready. He wants us to be warned. But he doesn't want any harlots to slip in. Only faithful virgins waiting on the bridegroom. So let's be faithful. Stop breaking the Lord's heart. He takes you back every time, hoping this time you'll stay and be faithful. And you won't just run to him when you're in trouble, when you need something, when you notice that everything's falling apart. But just be faithful, because it's going to be more than worth it. It's going to be more than worth it. And the time is soon. Even though we don't know what soon is. We don't understand soon. You ever taken a child on a long trip, on a drive, more than 4 or 5 hours, and you tell them, okay, it's going to be a while. We're going to Virginia. And they say, okay, great, let's go to Virginia. Now, they used to going to the store. They used to going to school. They used to going to the park. They're not used to going to Virginia. Soon as you hit the highway, the first thing they ask you, are we there yet? And they're going to ask you every 15 minutes until you get there, because to them, it seems like you ought to be there by now. So that's how we are. And then you tell them, no, we're not there yet. And you try to give them a concept of how long it's going to take. I took my oldest niece to Virginia one time, and she was excited. She wanted to go. We wasn't even out of the city good. And that girl asked me, for this 500-mile trip, are we there yet? I said, oh no, it's true. Oh no, they really do that. And so I finally got to telling her, okay, we'll be there about 6 o'clock. When you see a 6 on the clock, then we'll be there. So every 6 she saw, she said, are we there yet? If it was 12:06, if it was 12:36, she said that. So that's just the way it is. Thankfully, God is faithful. Thankfully, He's kind. Thankfully, He's forgiving. So let's try and walk worthy of the position that He's put us in to inherit eternal life and to be recipients of the grace of His Son. Walk like we're grateful. Well, let me get something done, and God bless everybody.